Welcome to Mystifying Miracles. Glad you're here. Today, our miraculous story involves an old widow back in the Depression days, and it speaks to how a miracle occurred and God provided. It's quite the story. It's a short one, but I think you guys will really enjoy it. It'll put a smile on your face. So stay tuned, and I'm going to get into it. It was the summer of 1949 when four young women, their names were Marilyn Miller, Janet Smith, Alma Wise, and Gracie Butler. They were going to be headed to Elmore City, Oklahoma to conduct a vacation Bible school. Their pastor back at home had arranged for them to stay with an old widow there, and her name was Sister Fowler. She had this little bitty 3-bedroom home, not like the 3-bedroom we hear of now where it's actually 3 bedrooms plus a living and a kitchen. No, it was a very small 3-bedroom, so 1 bedroom, 1 kitchen, 1 little living area, and that was it. So it was tiny. And it had this cute little lean-to back porch. And Sister Fowler, in her home, she only had 1 bed and 1 pull-out sofa. So they'd be squished in there, but it would turn out to be a blessing. The girls got up every morning and they had the same routine. Before they would go about their days to go do their ministry duties for the Vacation Bible School, Sister Fowler would wake up with them and she would make this incredible breakfast for them every morning, the same thing. And so they'd all get around the little kitchen table, all the girls and Sister Fowler, and they'd eat together. And Sister Fowler would make them like farm fresh eggs and also biscuits and gravy. And one of those mornings while they were there, Sister Fowler, she says, "Girls, I want to tell you a story." She said, "I want you to know something about these biscuits. They are miracle biscuits." And then she pointed her little old finger over the way across the kitchen to a little old-fashioned cabinet. On it, the top shelf, it had a bin of flour and a sifter. And she said to them, quote, "One morning, during the Depression, when my kids were still at home, I went to the flour bin. There was just enough flour to make 1 batch of biscuits. That was all." So Sister Fowler didn't know what to do that morning that occurred, back when, as she's telling the story. So she tells the girls, "I just got on my knees and I began to pray to God. And I told him, this is my last batch of biscuits to feed my family. After that, I have nothing else. I have no money. I don't know what I'm going to do." Remember, this is the Great Depression, right? After she prays, has a chat with God, she gets up and she makes the last batch of biscuits. Well, the next morning comes, and kind of by habit, she just starts walking over towards the old-fashioned little hutch, little cabinet she's got there in the kitchen, and she goes to the flour bin. She's not thinking, like, oh yeah, we ran out. So she gets it, she opens it up, she looks inside. And that's when the light bulb went off and she kind of remembered and she was like, oh, but as she's looking inside, there's just enough flour for 1 more batch of biscuits. So while it was baffling, there it was. So she used it that next morning to make the biscuits and feed her family. And back to present day, Sister Fowler, she's relaying this story to the girls at the kitchen table, and she tells them, ever since that day, every morning when I walk over to the little flour bin, there's always just enough flour to make 1 more batch of biscuits. And at that point in the story, all the girls are intently listening and tears are beginning to fall down their cheeks as they're thinking of this miraculous thing that God did. And that morning that story was told, the girls, they said there were praises said and sung to God just hearing this story. And because it was the thought as they sat there and buttered those biscuits and ate them, they were like, wow, we are right now eating God's miracle biscuits. because every day he provided that flour. Now, to put this little bow on the end here, wrap this up and put it into perspective, the Great Depression, it lasted from 1929 to 1933. For some 16 to 20 years, God provided flour every day for the widow, and it was always just enough for the next day. And the next day she'd get up and it was there, and so forth and so forth. That flour bin was never empty. And Sister Fowler, she claims she never went to the market. She didn't have money to, so she never bought more flour. It was just always provided. It was always just there the next morning. Now, obviously, at the time of this story when it was written, there was no one else still alive that knew what happened after that could relay further, because we knew that God, from the word of Sister Fowler, that God provided that again 16 to 20 years, right? But it's interesting to kind of think about, ponder, and question how much further after that time period did God continue to fill that flour bin for the widow? And it's kind of cool to think about. You know, the writer of this story that was relayed, they said, it's like in the Bible when God provided bread for the widow back in Elijah's day. He also did the same thing in the 20th century for a little old widow in Elmore City. And I couldn't help to, immediately when I was reading through this story, immediately this verse popped into my head. And I was like, oh, I gotta write that down so I can add it. So I was gonna let you guys know that the story immediately at the end there, I was like, yes, that's so true. God does provide. Just like in Hebrews 13:8, it talks about God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. He never changes. Never. So just like he did in the biblical days where he provided for that widow, and did so much more for others as well. There's so many stories. He also did for the widow in the 20th century, but he still does it today. I know he provides for me every day. All we have to do is ask. All we have to do is talk to him, have a relationship with him, and he is going to do that. He is faithful. He never changes. Just like that verse says, yesterday, today, forevermore, he is always the same. I hope this story blessed you guys big. I hope it put a smile on your face. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking an interest in these miraculous stories. I am going to see you next time.